Blabber.
Our buddy Greg Vizza alerted me to the fact that you mixed the original Flyleaf EP.
Yeah.
And I just thought that the reason that came up is the fact I've been working with Lacey on a movie about her life, and like working personally with her. We wrote the kind of script together, and she has an amazing life story. But I had no idea that you were even involved in that way. Did you do it when they were passerby, or whenever they changed to Flyleaf?
No, it was Flyleaf. It was there. I can't remember which came first. I had a roommate in New York City when I moved to New York City. His name was Romeo Thomas. Eventually went up through the ranks, different record labels, and was head of sales and artist development for James Diener's label. Was it James Diener's? It was called
Octone Records.
Was it James Diener? I think it was James Diener's label.
Yeah.
And I would occasionally do some mixes for that label, and I think I did a band on there called Dropping Daylight, which is an awesome rock band from Minneapolis. It was like Incubus meets Ben Folds 5. There's a piano player.
Weird. Yeah.
Really cool. So, and I think that, and I did the singles for that band. I mixed the singles for the 2 singles off of that record. And then I believe the Flyleaf thing came up, and they asked me to do some mixes for that. On the EP, I think I did I'm So Sick and Fully Alive.
Awesome,
and a couple more, but those are the 2 that I recall, the ones, I think those were the popular ones.
And I want to tell you some inside information that you may or may not know.
Mm-hmm.
Lacey has personally told me that she loves the mixes from the EP way more than those versions of those songs on their first album.
Oh, yeah, that's nice. That's nice.
So,
someone recently was talking to me about that, so I went onto the internet and I was looking for those mixes, because I don't have them anymore.
Right.
I found them, and everyone seemed to love the EP mixes, and they were great. They were raw. The band was, it was like lightning in a bottle. And I've since hung out with Howard Benson a bit, who did the other record after that.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And is it Mike Planknikoff, I think his name is pronounced? Mixed that record. And that record's an interesting record. I don't think it's bad by any means, but it's, music's so subjective. Some people probably, that's their ride or die record, and
right.
And it deviates from it they don't like. But I thought we did a pretty good job on that EP. I ended up producing some tracks on that record too, the big record, right?
Okay.
Producing and mixing some tracks on there. And I vaguely remember the band being on tour nonstop, and the label sent them to Nashville, and we did a whole acoustic record of
they did,
that big record.
Uh-huh.
Which was
I have it on digital. I have that release. So you did
really,
that one too?
I did all that stuff, yeah.
Wow, that's really
cool. It was a blast. I loved that band. I did some MTV mixes for them where they had some problems. The video record side was really bad, so I'm sitting in my studio re-hitting cymbals and, sort of remanufacturing a drum kit that had been thrown into a wood chipper, by just one mic distorted over top. A lot of good times. I loved that band, and I don't get to do a lot of heavy rock anymore. I did a band called Lifer that was on Universal, and every once in a while, there's that section where you do death metal, and it's like I didn't really love death metal because it's too much. I love the rock stuff that's just really intense, and that Flyleaf record was just fantastic. Those are the kind of records you just figure out a way to do. Usually they're on a label, so it's not that hard financially to commit to them. But what a great record. What a great band. And they were great people.
Yeah, they're back. They're actually reunited right now. Lacey decided to reunite with them for a handful of shows this year. And so they're out there. They just played Vegas, and who knows, it might lead to maybe more recording.
I got enough room for a 50-foot Prevost in my parking lot. I can run them on an extension cord, and we can make a record down at my barn.
You're going to have to wrestle with her husband, Josh, about that, though, because they built a recording studio in their basement. And that's where they do all of their recording. But, maybe to be back with the whole band, it would make sense for them all to be in a bigger studio. So
maybe I'll mix the record. You never know how you're going to fit in on projects. I was telling another podcast, I was telling them the story of being the person you want to be.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I made a decision early on that I was going to celebrate my friends' successes because it's not a natural inclination, especially to be around your friends start to have success. and you're not having it yet, and there's a whole, like, it's like a punch in the gut. And I made a decision early on to be happy. It wasn't natural, but I eventually embraced it, and it's the favorite part of my life now. But I was working on a really great rock artist out of New York named Chris Grace, and it was like Perfect Circle, Tool, very cool. He was a really talented artist, and he got the opportunity to work with Malcolm Byrne, which is a Grammy Award winning dude, really stellar producer. And me and Chris had been making records, 4 or 5 records together, and he came to me sheepishly to tell me he was going to go make this next record with Malcolm Byrne. And I was pumped for him. I was excited, and I was like, man, why don't you take out a U47 that he sounded great on? And I had an old set of these Neumann mic pre's that the Beatles used to use, these old V72s, tube mic pre's that are just famous. And I said, take these up to Kingston. We were in New York City at the time. And I said, take them up there, you know, this is the best vocal chain I've ever heard on you. And so they used that for the record, and he came back and played me the record, and he was he ended up just not being happy with the record. The label or the people that were involved with it weren't happy with the record. So they asked me to mix that record. So I mixed that record, and ended up, Malcolm loved the record, had me do a Sparkle Horse record with him, a Rachel Yamagata record with him, and then asked me to come to Nashville and make the Emmylou Harris record that got nominated for a Grammy in 2002. And as a byproduct of that, I got to work on that Warren Zevon record that won the Grammy that year in our category in 2002 for The Win, the last record. You know, I did a duet with him and Emmy. All of that would not have happened had I done the thing that my natural gut would have told me to do, which was like be mad that this guy wanted to go make a record somewhere else without me. Something I thought was mine. But since I embraced it, it ended up, you know, I moved to Nashville, ended up writing a bunch of #1 songs and producing a lot of records and having a son and building a life down here that would have not been had I not just embraced the reality that a friend of mine wanted to move on and do something else creative with someone else. And it's one of those things that you can point to in your life and say, man, my life would have been totally different had I been the old version of myself, the version that needed a little bit of cleaning up. So that's a great story, and it's a point that's literally changed, redefined the course of my life and career.